It was a time of uncertainty, a time when the world held its breath, fearing the catastrophic power of modern warfare. But from the depths of darkness, new weapons were born, ones that would redefine the battlefield. A select group of pilots and visionaries stepped forward, dedicated patriots who possessed not only exceptional skill, but the courage to embark on a journey into the unknown. Their dedication and resolve pushed the boundaries of what's possible in the defense of freedom, and in doing so, left their everlasting mark on the history of U.S. air supremacy. Palm Springs Air Museum Productions presents Top Secret: Heroes of Modern Tech.
We took the record, put up the torch in hand, and threw it in the fire. You folks have written history.
Colonel Alton Al Whitley was part of the initial F-117 program from 1981 to 1985. In August of 1990, he took command of the 37th Fighter Wing and immediately was deployed for Desert Shield and Operation Desert Storm.
Within hours of becoming the commander, I had to tell my family goodbye, and I went up range with my people, convened the battle staff, recalled the unit, and we started doing all the things in preparation for deploying on Sunday morning.
Soon, Colonel Whitley and Team Stealth would have the opportunity to test our nation's combat effectiveness against an unprecedented array of sophisticated enemy air defenses.
I'll never forget rolling out wings level that first time over the city of Baghdad, and I had never seen anything like that in my life. I said to myself, Self, is there any way you're going to be able to get through that? It's a fireworks show, unlike anything I've ever seen. You can smell the cordite through your oxygen mask.
Whitley's story is truly an American military success story, and also a team effort by the thousands who came together in Desert Storm. Its ultimate achievement had a major impact on the future of stealth platforms and the security of our nation.
Our 36 airplanes in the first few weeks of that war took out 60% of the strategic targets. The other 1,000 plus land-based and carrier-based aircraft, non-stealth aircraft, took out the other 40%.
Like most of the F-117 pilots, Major W. Blake Borland was checked out in the A-7, a clever ruse for a future highly secret mission.
They marched me into a briefing room and turned on a video that had one of the hangars up at Tonopah with Lockheed superimposed on it. And I sat there, my heart pounding, waiting for this thing to open up, and as the doors opened, I saw the 117 for the first time. I was in shock. It wasn't anything what I was expecting.
On night one of Desert Storm, Borland was one of the first wave to bomb outside Baghdad.
Will stealth work? We'll be able to go in and get through the assets that the Iraqis had. So the first night was the very first opportunity we had to do that. We had 10 airplanes go up, hit targets, 7 downtown Baghdad. 2 guys went to the West Hidden Air Defense headquarters, and I went to the East to hit one. None of us knew if it was going to work or not. We managed to get in unscathed and make our way home. So obviously stealth works pretty good.
Borland flew 23 missions into the jaws of death.
It's amazing how we got through all the missions we flew and nobody was hit. You just put your head down in the cockpit, hit your targets, and come on home. I mean, it just, something you had to do.
Lieutenant Colonel David W. Francis served over 24 years on active duty, logging over 3,600 hours as an Air Force fighter pilot. Now that's discipline.
From the very first training session, discipline was emphasized. Security discipline, making sure that you kept everything protected. Timing discipline, making sure you got to your target within 2 seconds. Target identification discipline, hitting the right target, no collateral damage. All that discipline that we trained with each and every day carried over into the war.
Francis dropped the second individual bomb of the Operation Desert Storm campaign, taking out a key Iraqi air defense site.
I would think of Churchill's quote that was essentially, "There's nothing so exhilarating as being shot at and missed." So I think that feeling of elation at not only doing a job, but doing it well and surviving the risks is probably one thing I will always take away from that experience.
Eyeing a highly secret Black World F-117 Nighthawk for the first time, Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Teabag Salata immediately felt his draw to the dark side.
The hangar doors parted. Backlit in the hangar was an F-117 stealth fighter. To me, it looked like Darth Vader's helmet, coming to a point on the top. It didn't look like it was a real airplane. It didn't look like it would be able to fly.
Under Salata's pilotage, the F-117 proved itself over and over again.
We'd achieved something that in aerial combat prior to that point had never been achieved before. Just the type of precision. Stealth allowed you to be more precise. It was revolutionary for aerial combat.
Joe was named 37th Fighter Wing Flight Commander of the Year and the 415th Fighter Squadron Stealth Fighter Pilot of the Year.
We're essentially kicking off a war here. Proud and privileged to be part of it. All the training that I'd done over the years had built up to that.
Like all the early F-117 pilots, Colonel Lee Guston had to make many family duty sacrifices for duty to his country.
Imagine flying to Korea, working a whole week at normal duty hours in Korea, then flying home and then try to be a normal person on the weekend for your family. That's probably the best way to describe that situation.
The F-117 was a flawless example of American air prowess. Well, all but perhaps just one.
The aircraft was delivered in July, just before we deployed in September. And every so often it would fight back. It would say, I'm just not going to go fly today. So it is called a possessed jet after the Stephen King novel, Christine. That managed to get on a CNN newscast the next day. And the next thing we know, Lockheed is calling about what's going on with tail number 843 Christine.
Not even Christine could stop Colonel Guston's determination to fulfill his mission.
One of the most lasting, profound things that I remember was pulling into that hangar after my first sortie, and there were people all over. They were there to recover the aircraft, but it seemed like there was a whole lot more people there. And the minute you dropped your traps, which were the bomb bay doors, and everybody in the room saw that your weapons were gone, they started clapping. So, very powerful.
Our country responded, they asked us to respond, and we've had the opportunity to do something not only for our country, but for the country of Kuwait, and we think that's pretty important.
Colonel Ralph Getch Getchell will be the first to tell you the F-117's stealth technology was responsible for our success in the storm.
Our criteria was plus or minus 3 seconds. Think about it. Fly a jet for 2.5 hours and then hit a target within 3 seconds of the agreed upon time.
By the end of Operation Desert Storm, we owned the night, logging close to 7,000 hours of combat time and delivering more than 2,000 tons of bombs, all without receiving so much as a scratch.
I testified in front of the House Appropriations Committee, Defense Subcommittee, and talking about stealth technology, and specifically, how did the technology work? Is it something we should be investing in? Once you've been stealthy, you don't want to be anything else, because that is the future.
No pilot is perhaps more adept at the F-35 than Lieutenant Colonel Doug Rosie Rosenstock.
The F-35, fifth generation fighter, it is a platform that is low observable, difficult to detect by enemy radar systems that could potentially shoot us down. It has not just weapons like a traditional fighter does, but it also has a lot of sensors on it so that when it's flying, it can sense all different portions of the battle space.
He served in the United States Marine Corps, United States Air Force, and Florida Air National Guard as an operational pilot and test pilot.
When you start talking to pilots and you realize what's really important when you're at 30,000 feet going faster than the speed of sound, there's a lot of things that you might not consider. So I'm trying to help bring that forward so that we can develop things that are useful for our warfighter, both in simulation and training as well as in the aircraft.
His recent work is all on F-35s, all variants, to include taking leave to consult for PAC's Navy test base at the Joint Simulation Environment as a subject matter expert.
I think it will augment live fly, but I don't think it's ever going to replace it. There's a balance that needs to be struck because you can't have a pilot who's just trained in a synthetic environment then go out and fly a real airplane and all of a sudden get hit with all those emotions and human factors and expect them to perform at the same level. It's kind of like shooting a basketball in a gym by yourself or playing in a game.
The journey from the F-117's stealth legacy to the contemporary landscape of the F-22s, F-35s, and the all-domain force signifies an ongoing commitment to innovation and adaptability in the ever-evolving field of modern warfare.
So as we think about the Air Force and what kind of Air Force we need to go to from the present to the future, it's really important that we think first about the types of competitors that we're going to face. And so we're going to have to answer that challenge by evolving and changing.
Perhaps no other commander can speak to the needs of the advancement of air power, strategic planning, and the evolving landscape of global security than retired Lieutenant General Clint Q. Highnose.
We know that we have to be better connected, not just with each other, but also between each other and the folks on the ground, the folks at sea, the folks that are operating the satellites in space, and so on. And so connectedness is going to be something that the Air Force and anybody flying in the air is going to need. More data sharing and more platforms in the air, and many of those won't have people in them. They will be directed from the ground or from the air or from maybe an aircraft that's a headquarters, maybe from the ship at sea. But they'll be doing things in swarms, and I think that's going to be happening very quickly, and that will all be really important for generating enough air power to do the job.
Tonight, we extend our deepest gratitude to the remarkable men who soared to new heights and volunteered service to our nation. Their dedication, valor, and unwavering commitment to excellence have safeguarded our skies and preserved the freedoms we hold dear. Please join me in saluting tonight's Palm Springs Air Museum's 2024 Gala honorees.